right, my driver is here. My bags are packed. So begins the journey to bring my mom back to Thailand. Oh my, it's gonna be an interesting 5 days.
Hey, what's up guys? Future me here. I want to jump in this video and maybe provide a little bit of context. I have been a horrible vlogger. I really haven't been filming in a while when I made this video, and I skipped out a bunch of stuff. Some of you might be considering doing the same thing, maybe moving out an elderly parent or family member or something like that, maybe bringing them to Thailand. So let me provide a few details about some things that I considered were important before I brought my mom over. So the first thing first is the passport. You know, she hadn't had a passport in probably several decades. So we had to go through all that process. That wasn't that easy. But what we didn't realize after months of trying to get her passport approved and getting photos approved and anything like that is that there's passport offices still in, say, post offices and other facilities, other government facilities. Eventually, she was able to go to the U.S. Post Office in my hometown and get some assistance. They helped her taking the photos and turning in her documents and whatnot. And eventually, we got the passport. Some other things I had to consider before I got there is, what about Social Security? Social Security was not too difficult. I reached out to Joe, Foreigner Joe, and he kind of told me what his situation was and how it worked. It's not really that complicated. She can maintain a U.S. address for now and still receive her payments. However, at some point in the future, and pass her address here in Thailand, because they do annual, I believe it's some sort of annual verification letter, something along that lines. I don't know the exact details. We haven't had to deal with it yet, but from talking with Joe, it's not really that complicated. It's really just making sure that you know you're still alive and well and should still be receiving your compensation. So severing those connections from the United States are definitely some things you're going to want to consider. Ending subscriptions, turning off cable, turning off power, gas, all those utilities. What exactly is getting sucked out of it? Because my mom had auto pay coming from her bank for many of those things. Of course, she's keeping her bank account. She's still gonna have deposits going there. We don't wanna get all the way to Thailand and find out they're still sucking this money out for that or sucking this money out for this or whatever. So I had to kind of sit down with my mom and, go one by one over all this stuff. I was like, is this on auto pay? Credit cards? We had to X all that. It's a beautiful system we have in America where they can take advantage of people and get them in situations they shouldn't be in. Anyway, we cut off all the credit cards. Having an alternate address is probably important. There's multiple ways to do that. If you're not going to spend a whole lot of time in the States, you're moving overseas, that's something that applies to everybody. Me, I have an alternate address that's actually a military post office, but unfortunately mom couldn't use that, so we had to have something else for her. No big deal. Phone number. So maintaining a U.S. phone number, if you're going to have any kind of online bank account, credit card, anything financial, even for like Google accounts and Yahoo, you are absolutely positively going to need some sort of U.S. number that you can take with you overseas. T-Mobile, AT&T, these other companies, they do have some sort of overseas plans, or I don't know. I don't know the details. What I have been using for many years now is Google Fi, and I was able to just bring my mom onto my account. She was assigned her own phone number. The bottom line being, it is a US-based number. You can get two-factor authentication. You can make direct phone calls to the States. Another good thing about Google Fi is it pretty much works worldwide. Anywhere you go, your phone is automatically going to connect to whatever network is in that country. It is surprising how often you're going to have to use that stateside number. So please, before you leave America, get something like that set up. Like Google Fi, things like that, they have to be set up before you leave the country. And just like that, I'm in America. Let's check out my rental car, a Subaru Crosstrek. Yeah,
They say you don't really have to check the cars anymore, but I still do. See if I still remember how to drive. I did open the correct door from the first try. I grabbed the right door. I couldn't believe it. And there it is. The last place my mother will probably ever live in my hometown. Yeah, not much of a spot, kind of a shack. Kind of glad to be getting mom out of there. This is the end of an era for her. We have been living in this town. Well, she's been living in this town since 1978, I believe. 1978 is when we moved here. So anyway, it's time to get mom up and out of here and move her to Thailand. She has finally got to the age where somebody should be looking after her. You know, she doesn't need full-time care or anything like that. I was gonna try and put her in an assisted living facility, but she don't want nothing to do with that. So I just got her an apartment for now. It's just a temporary apartment. I got it for a month. We'll see how she does. She does okay, then I'll let her stay there. But yeah, we're gonna give her space, try to let her live as independent as possible. Like she's been living here. Moving her somewhere else in America just wasn't an option. Just wasn't realistic. It is much smarter to bring her over to Thailand, where it's much more affordable, much better weather. She'll be much more comfortable, and I have a much bigger network of people who can assist than I do here. Although I do have to give a shout out to my nephew Brenton and his mom Kylie, who have been instrumental in helping me get my mom out of here, getting all her stuff taken care of. Yeah, it's an exciting time. It's going to be interesting to see how all this works out. My mom can be a little bit tough to deal with, but I can also be a little bit tough to deal with. So there's been some tough love going on and a little separation anxiety. She had to get rid of her cats, which was kind of sad. You know, I know she didn't want to give up her cats, but obviously we can't take them to Thailand. It wouldn't be worth the trouble. You know, it's going to be a big transition for her. Can't get her all the food and things she wants. She's going to have to learn to deal with Thai weather. She's going to have to learn to adapt to Thai people. It's going to be a different culture for her. Thai people are the nicest people in the world, but when you're trying to get things done in a hurry, or you're trying to force things, or if you get frustrated or angry, Thai people do not react well to that. So you have to adapt to them. It's their country, it's their culture. You have to adapt to Thai people. So it'll be an interesting transition. But like I said, I have some good people who's going to be working with her to teach her the way. This is finally happening. We are here. We leave in a couple of days. You know, there might be some comparisons to No Time to Be Sad. Chuck and his mom. Chuck's mom is a little bit more mobile than my mom. Her independent living situation was a little easier to deal with than mine. I know Chuck had to do a lot of stuff to get her over here as well. We're both kind of in the same boat, but we'll see how this goes. I don't know if we're going to be able to do as many adventures, but I definitely want to get my mom out. We'll see as much of Thailand as we can. We'll just take things one step at a time. No rush. All right, did the dirty, cleaned out my mom's place as much as possible. Of course, elderly woman, had a couple of cats. Things are gonna be a little messed up. It's okay. Cleaned it up, took out all the trash. We're gonna leave it as is. They can keep the deposit. Don't care, we're done, and we are out of here. Let's take mom to Thailand, let's go. All right, despite the mess, there is a treasure. Oh yeah, old photo albums. Probably one of the coolest things from our era, you know. As kids today, they grow up, everything's digital, it's online. But us Gen Xers and older, photo albums, man, the nostalgia in them, it's kind of cool to go through. There's some photos in there that I haven't seen in decades, so it's really cool to see them.
Something else I'll forget to mention when I finally do start taking my mom to the airport, there were a couple of difficulties going to the airport that I did not anticipate. They weren't big deal, but I figured them out pretty quick. But I had a rental car. I had to drive that car from my hometown back to Seattle Tacoma International Airport and drop it off. But I had my mom with me, and I was like, we don't have a wheelchair or walker for her at that point. How are we gonna move my mom around? The rental car facility is actually in a separate building outside of the airport. It's a pretty long walk. Once you get into the parking garage, it's a pretty long walk from the parking garage to the elevators, then out of the elevators to where the shuttle bus picks you up and takes you back to the airport. So I was like, what am I gonna do in this situation? And I didn't even anticipate this. So when we got there, I was like, I'm gonna have to kind of do this ugly. I actually had to park in front of the terminal, probably where you shouldn't be parking. I turned on my lights, my flashers, I left the car running. I got my mom out of the car, and this is not a fast, my mom doesn't move very fast. So I had to carefully move my mom inside. There was, if there had been somebody with like a wheelchair or a service or a porter or anything like that outside of Seattle International, I would have grabbed him and paid him and, hey, take my mom inside. I'll be back in, 20, 30 minutes after I drop my car off. I would have done that, but that wasn't an option, which was kind of surprising to me. So I had to walk her inside, then finding a seat. There's very limited seats, and actually the airlines have like this dedicated seating area for their passengers to wait in. And my airline didn't have, I'm with China Airlines, which is, a minority share airline at Seattle International. They didn't have any dedicated seat. I think I ended up actually seating her in like Delta or something like that. And I just told them, I'm like, hey, there's nowhere to sit. She can't stand here. I need to sit her down. And, they didn't give me any argument, but they could have technically said, hey, this is for Delta passengers only. But anyway, it still just kind of surprised me that they weren't set up for that. Took the car back without incident, came back to the terminal. We went into ticketing, and then after we got ticketed, I had requested wheelchair service prior to our flight. Once we had the wheelchair service, it was smooth sailing. It was not a big deal at all. That was too easy, and I highly, highly recommend it. Even if your parents or whoever you might be taking overseas can walk okay, forget about that. Airports are huge. They're massive. There's lots of walking. Why even try that? It would not have, I guarantee you, it would not have worked out for me if I'd have tried to do that. So we requested wheelchair service. It was right there on the spot. They took us through security. They took us to the lounge. They took us to the aircraft. I gave them a little tip. There is no additional fee to use the wheelchair service. You just need to request it in advance. We flew. It was about a 12-hour, 13-hour flight to Taiwan. Got to Taiwan, and they met us right there, wheelchair. Took us to the lounge, chilled out. We had to go through the whole transient passenger thing where you got to go through security again. Too easy. Got through all that. We hung out in the lounge for a little bit. Wheelchair guy took off, came back, took us back to the airplane again, and then off to Thailand. It was smooth as butter. Couldn't have been any easier. You'll see later in the video that I did book business class seats for me and my mom, and that was just a comfort thing. She hadn't flown in many years, and I thought it would be a much better situation to have her in the most comfortable seats possible for a very long flight. I also made sure that the seat was right next to the bathroom, just so she didn't have to go walking all the way through the airplane if she had to use the restroom. And the flight attendants, man, China Air, those flight attendants were as absolutely helpful as they could be. I was right there. I got a seat right next to her to make sure I could keep an eye on her for the whole flight. It really wasn't complicated. The food was good. Everything was good. I got nothing bad to say about China Air. They really took care of us on this flight, as they should have, for the price we paid. But yeah, no complaints about China Air. I would fly them over and over again. So anyway, let's get back to past me and the rest of the video. Again, I apologize. There's so much more I should have filmed in this whole process, things we did, even saying goodbye to my nephew and his mom, Kaylee. I didn't even get that on video. I got a couple pictures though, so I'll throw those in later. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and back to past me.
All right, mom's first experience with business class. It's gonna be fun. Almost there. Mom's back there enjoying her VIP treatment. Got her first hot towel. They had to show her how everything works. Nothing. We're talking about you here on the internet.